Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ealing Road podcast, where in today's show we're going to be previewing the start of the 25-26 season. We've all had a little bit of a break amidst what a pretty chaotic kind of summer period this has been for Brentford. Craig, how are we?
I'm looking forward to the season to get underway. Not so confident personally after the preseason frenzies that we've seen, but I'm sure we'll dive into that. But I'm looking forward to the season getting underway now.
Dan?
I'm all good. It's good to be back. I'm more excited than I am nervous, but it's very different this season. But I think that fuels my excitement more than nervousness at the moment. But come Sunday, we'll see how I'm feeling after that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about sort of the preseason friendlies, how much we can take from them. We're going to wrap a bit of transfer news as well. And then I thought it would be useful to kind of go through the squad from defence to attack, look ahead to Forest, and kind of just talk about how we're feeling, because as you mentioned, this is the fifth time we're going into a Premier League campaign, but obviously this one is different for a plethora of reasons, so we're going to get into everything. But just before we get going, remember to drop a comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, follow us on the socials at the Ealing Road on Twitter, at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. I thought we'd go through the kind of newsworthy stuff first, being the transfer rumours. Dango Ouattara from Bournemouth. Brentford have supposedly held initial talks with Bournemouth about the signing of Dango Ouattara. This is Sky Sports Lyle tweeting this, by the way. There is positivity a deal can be agreed, although the Mbeumo replacement, not Wissa's. Further talks over his future expected next week, which was this week, which will be this week because this tweet was sent, I think, on Friday. I think the interesting part about that, Craig, is the fact that they're looking at this as Mbeumo's replacement and not Wissa's. How did you feel when you saw these rumours?
It's one of those strange ones, isn't it? Because when you think about Bournemouth and the way that they played last season, you think about Cliver, you think about the defence as well as Kepa being in goal. You don't really think about many of their front line. And seeing us being linked with a player who is still quite a youngster, quite a young-ish player-ish, but with Premier League experience that we could pull in, for me, it's quite impressive to see us going in that direction, because we seem to have changed from those Brian Mbeumo-esque signings of League Two in France to now being able to pull in some Premier League talent. We spoke about it at the back end of last season in preseason, does Keith Andrews have the pull to be able to bring in Premier League experience? And I think we're at a point going into that fifth season now where we're able to, get Premier League experienced players, and it's the club that has the pull, not necessarily the staff. So it could be worse. I mean, it could be worse for sure.
It is a bit of a weird one though, Dan, because I was speaking to a Bournemouth fan about this. He's not like devastated that he's going to be leaving, but he's just confused, considering he's got 3 years left on his deal. It cost him 20 million, and the Bournemouth fan said he's like super versatile, super athletic, can play across the front three. So it kind of ticks a lot of boxes for Brentford. But in terms of the move itself, going from a middling Premier League club, who are one of the smaller clubs in the Premier League, it's kind of a sideways move. It's not really, I don't know. Well, it was just weird. I think it's weird.
Yeah, well, he's going from a team that have lost all its defence to a team that have lost all its attack. Yeah. Obviously, in Bournemouth's defenders, Kirkez and Howson and Zabani now, I think, have all left. It's an interesting one. Maybe he thinks he can get more first-team football at Brentford now there's an opening and Brian's left. I don't think he started all the time for Bournemouth last season. Still think he scored 7 goals. I remember him getting a hat-trick at one stage as well. So he's got potential, I think. I can see him growing with the team. I can't necessarily see him coming in having the same impact as Brian straight away. But as a squad option, and we definitely need depth in that front three, I think he could be good. There's room to grow. I think we'd probably be having a similar conversation about Amari Hutchinson if we went ahead with that instead, in terms of, he's not necessarily proven at the top level in the Premier League, and I'm not sure he would come in either and hit double figures in his first season. So if it's cheaper than Hutchinson, I back it. I think it's difficult to tell how it will go, but it's someone we've heard of, and it's someone we know that can play across the front three, which is always useful. And yeah, I think he can contribute definitely.
And that obviously opens the door, Craig, for Yan Wissa's exit. We've not had a podcast or recorded a podcast since the kind of news came that he left the training camp and then he was training on his own. He's not been in any of the preseason squads. What are your thoughts on that? Dan, you were the one that sent the tweet on the Elam Road podcast account on Twitter. So I'll come to you after. But the whole Wissa situation, Craig, it's would you say it's kind of tarnished his legacy in a way?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? Because some rumours were coming out that he was refusing to train with the team and refusing to play, saying that he won't be playing for us again. And then there was rumours of people that supposedly know people around the club that were reporting that that was not necessarily the case. So it's difficult one, isn't it? Because we're always kind of blindsided as fans in regards to what is happening behind the scenes. We're not necessarily given the information that we as fans really need. Because if he is refusing to play and he is refusing to train, absolutely it tarnishes his tenure at Brentford, and it ends on a very sour note if that's the case. But if he is training, which the pictures that now have been posted suggest he is training with the team, and it's just a case of the next step in his career, then so be it. We know as Brentford fans, we're a stepping stone club. People come to us, get the experience that they need, and they go on to those bigger projects. Look at Brian with United and Bonrama when he went to West Ham, Ollie Watkins when he went to Villa, and Newcastle are a substantially bigger club than we are with Champions League football as well. It's a challenge for him, but it depends on what the truth actually is. I wish him the best if he is to go, but if he's doing what is rumoured in refusing, yeah, he's tarnishing his reputation and his time here at Brentford.
I did a video about it, Dan, and I think the main thing for me is that, and I've heard that his agents are like not that they're angling for this move, and they have been angling for moves for Yan Wissa in the past as well, but it's the fee. It's like, what can Brentford do if the fee's too low? And the reported fee now, if he does go, is 35 million. I don't know if that's a package deal with add-ons or less. But I'm kind of the opinion that Brentford can't do anything about the fee that a club offers, and we were never going to accept 25 million once Bryan Mbeumo's gone. And I mean, even if Bryan Mbeumo wasn't there, 25 million for a player that's just scored 19 non-penalty goals in the Premier League is quite low, Dan.
Yeah, I think that's it. Players' values change. And if a promise was made to him last year, it was before he had his, by far the best season of his career, scored so many goals, none of them penalties. And obviously that's going to cause his value to go up. I still think 35, 40 million for a player of his age, approaching the second half and the end of his career, I think is a good number. I want to see it happen as soon as possible, because we've seen it before as well. When these things drag into the season, they delay replacements coming in, and it'll be 4 or 5 games already gone in the Premier League by the time the window shuts, and hopefully we've got a replacement in. So it's not ideal for anybody. Wissa, even when he leaves and goes to Newcastle or Saudi potentially, which I could see happening as well, he won't be match fit because he's trained a little bit here and there. Obviously, we know he's missed lots of training, even if he has trained a little bit, because he didn't go to Portugal. So it's frustrating, but I'm not surprised. You can see why he would want to be more ambitious and to play in the Champions League before he retires. He's seen Brian get his move. He's seen Norgard get his move. He probably thinks that, there's a new era at Brentford now, and given the stage he's at in his career, he doesn't really have time to sit around and, wait for us to climb up the league again. So I get it from his point of view. There's a way to go about it, though. And, Brian didn't really get any criticism on his way out. Christian Norgard didn't really get any criticism on his way out. It's a shame that some players do seem to force it a little bit more. Maybe that is down to their agents. But I just want it to be resolved, because I think he will leave. It's just delay that is being caused to this whole thing now, for when it happens, and it's got to happen straight away, or as soon as possible, for us to get a replacement in as soon as possible.
Well, one of the replacements being touted is, and I'm going to butcher this completely, Arnaud Kalimwendo. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. That's just how I'm reading it phonetically, from Rennes, but he scored 17 goals in 33 French top flight matches last season. I've done a bit of Twitter compilationing, and the signs are good if we manage to get him in. But there's also interest from Spurs and Villarreal too. Are we all of the opinion that I think it's got to be 2 in before? Because I was thinking it was 1. However, having seen us struggle a little bit in the final third in the preseason matches, and Donovan hasn't started a preseason game, I don't think.
No, he's come off the bench. Yeah,
he's come off the bench, and he didn't come on against Gladbach.
Well, he scored in the Saturday Gladbach game. I think he started that one. Yeah.
But are we all of the opinion that it should be, if Ouattara happens, and it looks like it's going to happen, are we all of the opinion that we should be looking to get another one in as well before the end of the window?
Yeah, Donovan's too young, I think, to be expected to do anything in the Premier League. We're losing 2 proven goal scorers, and if Ouattara is one of them, I think the other one needs to be someone with some kind of record at a decent level in and around Europe, because it's a lot of goals that we're replacing. So someone like Kalim Muendo from Rennes, I think he would potentially be good. Obviously, I think the Premier League is still a step up from League One in France, but he's got a good record. And, he's someone who I could potentially see slipping in and hopefully contributing, because we need to share the goals around this year, because I can't see us having 2 players getting close to 20 this season, unlike last year.
We'll touch on that a bit later, because I think there was a bit of discourse on Twitter around Igor Thiago and his preseason, and whether we're convinced or from the limited game time that he's had during his Brentford career. But I think we'll start with just kind of the games that we've had, Craig. Gil Vicente, QPR, and Gladbach the other day. Thoughts from those 3 games?
We'll start with the Gil Vicente game. Obviously, it's great to see Thiago scoring, but it was a very sloppy goal that we conceded. Sepp loses the ball very easily, just probably 10 yards outside the penalty area, and it's a good finish from their striker to put it into that bottom corner. But it's hot. It is hot out there, and it's hard work for them. They've done the whole camp out there, and it was good to see. Like I said, it's good to see Thiago get on the score sheet. And maybe I'm speaking to myself, but a lot of people on Twitter are saying the same thing. It's good to see Fab having a good preseason as well. It's good to see Fabio having a good preseason, and he looks like if he can hit the ground running when the season starts, we might have a bit of more competition in the midfield as well, especially going forwards. I think that it's identified as well that we do need, all 3 games have identified that we do need an extra body or 2 in that front line, especially now Gustavo's injured again, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
That was in the Vicente game, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was unfortunate. QPR, obviously it's nice to get one over them at any time, be it a pre-season friendly or what. It's nice to get one over them. And it was nice to see us attacking from the beginning. But it felt as soon as we'd scored, we almost took our foot off of the gas straight away. But being pre-season, you can almost see it being the idea of just go and get yourself ahead and see how we can sit on these kind of games. Now, QPR crap. Yeah, let's be real. Anyone that watched it, they were crap. Yeah, they created nothing. They did nothing for the whole game. It was rubbish. So it's not much to go off, and it's nice to see that they're in decline. And then Gladbach, the second half was so much better than the first half. I think everyone would agree on that. It was slow. It was sluggish. And I'm eating my words from earlier podcasts in that, and we spoke about it before we started, that Jordan Henderson comes on and he just brings that experience and he raises the game of players around him. He makes us look better. And I am eating my words, but the season hasn't started yet, so he could still be rubbish. And then we'll recircle this when he's actually really good. And he's the one that scores 20 goals this season.
We'll talk about him in a bit more detail when we go to the midfield. But Dan, your assessment of the 3 games, it's a bit of a weird one though with pre-season. And I never normally watch the games as intently as I've watched this summer, just because of the circumstances and everything that's changing. But I did watch all 3. But I don't know how much you can take from them, because I'd say the QPR game was maybe played a little bit more intensely because of the rivalry between the two sides. But your assessment of the 3 games, Dan, what would you say?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll say there doesn't seem to be many preseason fixtures this year. I feel like in previous years we would have had more than the three. I don't know if there was any disruption caused by the late change to the management. I know there's a bit of changing around as to where we were going for preseason, so I hope it doesn't have any effects going into the season and the players are all up to scratch. Of course, there probably has been other behind closed doors games that have gone on in this time, but yeah, three seems a bit low to me. So, but hopefully there's not any concerns about that. I thought against QPR in particular, we were in control. We dominated the ball. I still thought we struggled to create a bit at times, and the same can be said for the Gladbach game, although in possession it was a bit more even in that game. My main concern is going forwards and creating chances that aren't from set pieces, because from set pieces we look like we're going to score a lot of goals this season. And the likes of Nathan Collins could be the one to get 20 goals at this rate with his ability from set pieces. But it is concerning that we just look it looks a bit clunky when we're trying to attack with that front three when we haven't got a set piece. So that's something to work on. I think a couple new bodies will help. I'm not really convinced on Thiago up front ever since we've really signed him and he's played, to be honest. I hope I'm proved wrong there, but even if he is to be an option up front for us this season, we need another one and we need bodies in that front line. But I don't think preseason results have anything to say going into the season. I think Forest, who are playing on Sunday, have 1 goal in their 7 preseason games. Yeah, and they've done terribly. So, it'll be an interesting game on Sunday from that perspective. But yeah, it's been good in places, but I feel it's been a bit of cutting edge.
It feels like a complete switch from last season when we was having our conversation going into the season last year, and we talked about the preseason that we just had. We were saying we looked like we're going to score a lot of goals going forwards, but we look like we're going to concede a lot of goals at the back. Now, the problem I feel at the moment is we don't look like scoring very many goals going forwards, but we don't look like conceding very many goals at the back as well. I feel like we're quite strong, and we have definitely become a bit more what looks like difficult to break through. The goals that we conceded against Gladbach, the second one, which was again another almost a carbon copy of the Vicente. I've forgotten what the name of their team.
Gil Vicente.
Vicente, that's it. It was almost a carbon copy of that one, except for the fact that we didn't lose the ball in the edge of the penalty area. Player picks it up on the edge of the area, puts it in the bottom left-hand corner. Oh, shit. Oh, language. Sorry, I called my mic then. Puts it in the bottom left-hand corner. And it doesn't feel like silly goals that we're conceding. It looks like we're having to be broken down and we're having to be beaten rather than us giving away needless silly goals, which is what we was concerned about going into last season. So if we can bring a bit more firepower in going forwards, I think that it's not a case of outscoring teams, which is what we was doing for a lot of last season, beating Wolves 5-2, beating 5-3, whatever it was, beating Ipswich 4-3, beating Bournemouth 3-2, like trying to outscore teams. We might be able to just beat them and be defensively solid, but it depends on who we can get in going forward still.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
We haven't had Kevin Schade as well, obviously, for pre-season. So I don't think this is something aimed at the management. I think if you just take out our entire front three from last season, we're not going to be as good. So, we need to get bodies in. Hopefully Kevin Schade's back for Forest as well.
Yeah, I mean, KLP hasn't been effective on the left really at all in pre-season. And he showed glimmers when he was playing there when we first signed him. But I don't know if I'm of the opinion now that I kind of prefer him at left back even. But we'll see how that goes. I think before we kind of get into the squad and we'll go for it, defence, midfield and attack, I will say one thing that I've loved from the Brentford social media this summer is the amount of content they've been churning out on YouTube. I'm assuming you boys have watched the Keith Andrews mic'd up video. Which I thought was really good, to be fair. We'd not really seen any content of him kind of in action on the training pitch. But I thought it was good. Anyone want to chime in? I thought he was.
I'm completely in favour of the coaching staff and Keith Andrews now, because I've thought, thinking about it, we were like the pioneers years ago in introducing set piece coaches. Could we be seeing something that we're leading the way on again in terms of promoting from within, and in turn that allowing us to poach some of the best coaches around? Because if you're a young coach and you want to eventually get into management, you think, I should go to Brentford because I can deliver coaching in the Premier League by going to Brentford, and then potentially in the future I can get promoted quicker than I would if I took another route. So could we be seeing the start of us having one of the best coaching teams as a result of the way we go about it? Whereas if we went about it in the way that everyone else does, then all the best coaches will go to the big six teams, and we just have more, not average coaches, but the next level of coaches who are good enough for the Premier League. So I can get behind the coaching team and Keith Andrews at the moment. Obviously, it's going to be an interesting first few games of the season, but I do think we might be onto something there in terms of trying to do something differently to get an advantage on it, and I can see why we're doing it.
Keith Andrews impressions, Craig?
His love for Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers also just made me like him a bit more as well. Can't go wrong with a bit of violence in the street, can we? It's great to see, and it feels refreshing, doesn't it? Like you say, Dan, it's a complete overhaul of the coaching staff and bringing in the young talent that we're able to do. Again, we was talking about the pull of Keith Andrews whilst writing off the pull of the football club. We're such a forward-thinking football club, and we like to push the boundaries, take new challenges and things like that. And when we spoke about Keith Andrews before, we were saying, yes, it's going to be a risk, but to quote Thomas Frank, by not taking a risk, you're also taking risks. So it could be something that pays off. If it pays off, fantastic. If it doesn't, then we need to identify that quickly and go down a different route. But from what we see, and this is obviously behind the scenes, I have no reason to doubt that this is the right decision at the moment. I have no reason to doubt that this is the right decision that the club have made. But we need then to see what we see in these videos and what we see behind the scenes put into action on the pitch, because we all know that 3 points is the only thing that really matters on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whenever it is we're playing. The only thing that matters is the 3 points.
I think what stood out to me is that we kind of spoken about it on the podcast before as well, in terms of why would they make this decision if the players weren't on board? But we'd had no indication that they were on board, and we, from those YouTube videos, seeing the relationship that he had with someone like Fabio Carvalho or some of the other players that he spoke to in those videos, you can tell that there is a connection between him and the players, which is what we assumed would be the case. But it was good to see the evidence of that, and just kind of seeing his training ground etiquette and some of the drills and stuff that they were doing. It looked like a really positive environment, which is good. Let's move on to the squad then. We'll go for it. So I think the attack is obviously something a bit of a concern, a bit of a touch point there that we can get onto. But in terms of the defence and the midfield, I'll go through the defence first. We've got Aaron Hickey, Rico Henry, Michael Coyote, Mads Reslev, still at the club, Christopher Ayer, Nathan Collins, Ethan Pinnock, Sepp Vandenberg, Jaden Magoma, and Benjamin Arthur. Are we happy with that? I think in fullback, and we kind of spoken about it over the summer and towards the back end of last season, we've got some actual depth, which sounds weird because fullback's been a real problem position for us over the last few seasons. Depth at centre back, questionable. I've got here in the running order given Pinnock's previous season, and I have seen some people on Twitter kind of suggesting the same thing, that we've now sent Kim out on loan as well. Do we feel like we need another centre back, or are we? I think they might have high hopes for Benjamin Arthur, but I'm not sure if there's an injury to someone like Nathan Collins and it'd be a long-term injury. You'd imagine Ethan Pinnock would be the first one to step in, and some people thought we were being harsh on Pinnock, but I just don't think you have that kind of drop off and not be an indication that he's maybe coming towards the end of his career.
We was in the same boat last season, going into the season with Ben Mee, saying if one of these players gets injured, Ben Mee is the one that is going to step in. When you've got fullback wise, it's crazy. It feels crazy at the moment. And you could also just throw KLP back into that list. You could very easily throw KLP back into that at this. So you've got Hickey, who can play both sides. We know Hickey can play both sides. So then you've got Roslev and Aya and Coyote. Obviously, Aya can play in the middle or he can play on the right, depending on where you want him. Then you've got KLP, you've got Rico, you've got Magoma. You're looking at like 3 or 4 players for each position. I've done it again. I'll smack my mic again. Sorry to anyone that's listening. I can't see us needing another one, but I also think that we're in a position, personally, that we could send one of Magoma or Benjamin Arthur actually out on loan and get them some more minutes.
Yeah, I think so. I'd rather send Magoma because I think Arthur's a centre half. I'm pretty sure. Have I got that right? Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the area where we're a little bit light. How do you feel about the defence, Dan?
I think as a centre back this season. I can't see him playing much game time at full back, so I think him and Pinnock could be the backups for Collins and Vandenberg, which I'm fine with. I think I might even choose Aya above Pinnock, depending on how Pinnock's looking early in the season. I know he's not had a proper pre-season because he's had a few injury problems, so I think Aya probably starts as third in line behind Collins and Vandenberg. I think it's always difficult when you're looking for extra depth because who can we bring in who won't take game time away from someone like Vandenberg, who's young and still growing in the game, and who's going to be a better backup than someone like Aya and Pinnock. I don't think many players would be willing to come in and just sit on the bench or take away game time from other younger players. So I don't think we need any changes here. With KLP, I also agree he's better at left back. I'm a bit worried about him this season. I think we could see a drop off in terms of how we think of him this season, given that he's one of our best players last season. I'm worried in terms of I just don't think he's got that end product to play out wide and high, and it doesn't look like he's being considered at left back anymore this season. So I'm a bit worried for how this season goes for him. Of course, we need him to start contributing in the final third, but I also do prefer him at left back, but I can't see him playing there this season. I would have Hickey over Henry as well. Even though Henry looks like he's probably going to start the season, but I think
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
because I do think Aaron Hickey, and they're both coming back from long-term injuries, but I thought he's the one with the kind of most potential in terms of fullback, and it has been weird to not see him. He didn't start against Gladbach. How did you feel about Rico's preseason, Craig? Did you think he performed all right? There was a few people saying that he was bad against QPR, but I thought he was good against QPR. Like, more towards the levels that we've come to expect from him over the years.
I was surprised at it's surprising, but I thought that he would have lost a bit of pace, especially with the injury and how long-term it has been. I thought he would have lost a yard of pace, but he doesn't seem to have at the moment. Now, obviously, he is probably still only at, let's be real, 70-75%, like Matty Jensen was when he did his post-match interview against Gladbach. He said he's only at 75%. We've got players like Hickey coming back. Thiago, obviously, still probably not at 100% yet either. Rico, I've only named 3, so that list doesn't seem very extensive at the moment. But players coming back from injuries from last season, and then stepping in and filling the void that they actually left. Now, KLP stepped up massively, and KLP was brilliant for us last season. He was absolutely fantastic, and I can't fault him for the job that he did at left back. But we know what Rico Henry is capable of, and if we can get 90% of Rico fully fit and 90% playing to the way he was in those first couple of seasons when we was in the Prem, where he was pocketing players like Salah again when we played Liverpool, and I remember when we beat them 3-1. And he just had him in his pocket like the whole game. So if we can get back to close to that version of Rico Henry, I don't see any way in which there is anyone who starts ahead of him. The challenging part for me is actually right back, not left back, because when you look at the players we've got, as we've just went through, we've got Roslev, we've got Coyote, we've got Aya, we've got Hickey. We've got Hickey. Like, we don't have issues with depth, but we have issues with not good issues with what is our strongest out of these 10 players that we've got to fill these positions. It's a good headache for a manager to have, and it's a completely different scenario to what we was in last season, the start of last season. So I just don't see how Rico doesn't start the season. Personally, I don't see how Rico doesn't start the season, but I couldn't tell you who starts at right back. For me,
I think Coyote's locked down that right back.
I think it's Coyote. Having Hickey coming back from injury, seeing Aya play out in that position as well, it makes logical sense that Coyote starts as right back, as our out-and-out right back, because he was brilliant last season as well.
Yeah. I think Rico starts at left back, but I don't think I wouldn't be surprised to see Hickey come in for him at some point in the season and cement his position at left back. To be honest, because I think he's played really well, but even towards the back end of last season, coming back from an ACL, and I know Hickey's wasn't an ACL, but he just looks a little bit. I don't know. It's not. I've not seen the full on at his best Rico Henry, and I don't know if he's had too many injuries to kind of get back to that level. But you could say the same thing about Aaron Hickey. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Do we think the back four on Sunday against Forest is Coyote, Collins, Seth, and Rico? I think that's most likely.
Yeah.
Looks like that from preseason, but it's interesting, and there is depth there, which is good to see. Moving into midfield, this is who we've got: Yeho Yarmoliuk, Mikael Damsgaard, Fabio Carvalho. Although Fabio Carvalho has been playing in the front three in preseason as well, it has to be said. Jordan Henderson, Anthony Malambo, but he as well has been playing in the front three. Malambo, I think he played out on the left when he came on against QPR. Janelt hasn't featured. Cognac, Jensen, Trevitt, Frank Onyeka is still at the club as well, by the way. Callum's buzzing with that. Paris Magoma and Miles Peart-Harris, the latter of which I don't think... I mean, Peart-Harris has had about 4 pre-seasons now with us, and he's never really kind of ever showed signs of breaking in, / he's always getting loaned out. But I think the main one in that midfield is Jordan Henderson, and we spoke a little bit about him earlier. The impact in the second half against Gladbach, Dan, is he going to play more than we expected him to play? And is he the direct Norgard replacement?
First time on this pod since I called it. And then Brentford came in and signed him. I think he gets a bad reputation. I think, for years people have been calling for him to not be in the England squad. And I kind of get that argument when you look at the other top English players we have, and given his age now. But I think you don't win the Premier League, you don't win the Champions League, you don't be captain of Liverpool. And then, from what I understand, he was a fairly regular player at Ajax last season as well. You don't do all that if you've not got that quality. And I think when he came on against Gladbach, just his quality in passing, he put a nice cross in at one stage. He hasn't always had to do that in Liverpool teams because he's got Trent to his right and, various other creative players around him. But I think when you put someone like him into a team like us who are good, but, we don't have those top level players, I think that's when his quality stands out. And I think that's what we'll see this season. The only concern would be, his fitness levels, whether he can go for 90 minutes given his age. And I guess that's still a bit of an unknown given he only played about 20 minutes against Gladbach. But I think he'll be really good for us. I think he'll start regularly in that 6th position, and I do think he'll replace Norgard because I wouldn't be comfortable playing with that midfield three of Yarmo, Jensen, and Damsgaard, which he played the last couple of weeks. There's no one really in that 6, and if you put Henderson there, he's got so much experience as well, and he did not shut up when he came on the pitch against Gladbach. He's always shouting at those around him, bringing them through the game, and I've not seen someone speak as much as he did in that 20 minutes when he came on. So, the way he'll guide someone like Yarmo, who is going to be a key player for us this season, I think he's going to have a real breakout year. And at the end of the season, hopefully we'll be talking about him similarly to Damsgaard last year. I think he'll massively help him through the season as well. I do think Henderson's here to start in that 6th position.
I hope he does, because I think in the second half, like everything that you just said, he just kind of raised it a little bit. And I saw the midfield three when the lineup came out against Gladbach, and I was just concerned. There's no one in there that's Norgard like in the way that he can just kind of boss that kind of middle third of the pitch. Another player that's looked really good, Craig, Anthony Malambo. He looks fucking class. He really does look good. really excited by some of his cameos. He looks really
Yeah.
good.
I thought he was absolutely fantastic against QPR, and seeing how again we said it, they didn't put up any much of a threat at all, really, in that game. But what it allowed is for him, players like Fab, Damsgaard, to get on the ball and just have the time and the space and the freedom to show what they can do. And he's got that little bit of flair and creativity that what Damsgaard doesn't have. So while we know what Damsgaard can do when he picks up the ball and he can move the team up 40 yards in the blink of an eye, we know that as soon as he gets the ball, he's either going to find the pass out to one of the left or the right or straight through the middle, or he's going to carry it. He's going to carry the ball 40 yards. And I think about the runs that he did against like Brighton away last season, where he's dribbling past 4 or 5 players. But Malambo, when he picks the ball up, he just has a bit of flair, doesn't he? Like he was doing a few tricks and whatnot against QPR and doing a couple against Gladbach, and they was coming off. But we know that the Premier League is kind of a different animal. We know that. We're well aware of it. But he just seems like he's got something about him, doesn't he? You know, when you see players like that, with all due respect to Fab, when he came in, he didn't really light the world on fire. And I'm not saying that Malambo has done that as well, but he's offered us something immediately, some creativity, some flair, something different. And I'm excited to see what he could bring. But again, we're just in another good headache for Keith Andrews, because what is our best midfield three at the moment? Yeah. Because in my head, at the moment, Damsgaard is the only one that you cannot take out of that team. And then, I think Henderson at the moment, it makes sense for him to be starting as that 6, but we know that he can't. Well, we don't know that he can't play the whole 90 minutes yet, but as Dan touched on, he's 35 years old. He might not be able to do that. You know, he might not be able to play 90 minutes. My dad has said this, and I back my dad the whole way. Turn Aaron Hickey back into a midfielder. Turn him back into a midfielder. When he started playing, when he went to, I believe it was when he was at Hearts, he was a midfielder who converted to a right back. He was a defensive midfielder that converted to a right back and a left back. Put him back in midfield. If we've got the depth that we've got at fullback, which we do, we just went through them. Put him back in midfield, convert him back into that position, and let him do the defensive work that we know he could do. And he also can pick the ball up and he can drive the team forwards. We saw it when he was fit and he was playing. Take a risk, man. That's what I was saying. Do it. Just the amount of risks that we've taken this season. What have we got to lose? If it don't work, just chuck it back at right back, man. Just put it back there.
Just on Malambo, when he came on against Gladbach, he replaced Thiago, and we had like dual 10s and no striker. So we had Damsgaard, Malambo, and no one really up front. And given our lack of options up front, if it's not working with half an hour to go against Forest at the weekend, I'd back changing to that, because, you know, Damsgaard and Malambo, both creative. Malambo is very skillful. It'd be a different way of trying to attack the opposition. And I'm not convinced completely about Thiago, which we'll talk about in a minute. And if we need another option at the weekend, you know, I can see Keith Andrews being in a position that Thomas Frank's been in before, where we don't really have the options off the bench to really try and change the game. I was quite pleased to see Keith Andrews do that, even though it was only a friendly, and try something different. And I would like to see that again at the weekend if we need a goal.
One more in the midfield before we move into the attack. I think we can all agree that I think midfield, happy with the depth. Similarly to the defence, maybe we could do with another centre half, but I think midfield and defence, I'm happy with the depth and the players we've got.
I'd like another 6, to be honest with you. Now, that's just because I don't want to have to rely on Frank Onyeka. That's because I don't want to have to. I'm sorry, Callum. All right, I'm sorry. I don't want to have to rely on Frank Onyeka. And, you know, Yan can bring that depth, but he's also injured at the minute, isn't he? We haven't seen any of him pre-season. So, yeah, I think that a younger.
Well, Konak as well. Konak. Someone in the comments from our last podcast, we were saying that Henderson's the only 6 at the club, Craig, but we were missing out Konak, who we've not really seen too much of. But I'm not sure they're going to bring in another 6 because they've got Henderson, they've got Konak, they've got Onyeka, and they've got Yan out as well. I think we should just be looking to gear as much focus towards the attack as possible. But yeah, before we move on, interesting hearing Keith Andrews talk about Fabio Carvalho in pre-season. This is what he had to say. I think it was after Gladbach or after QPR. I said, my expectations of Fabio are high. I think he's an extremely talented young man and a player with phenomenal attitude towards his profession. I love working with him, and he's a phenomenal human being. I don't want to say breakout season. Well, I've got breakout season in the running order, but he's looked really sharp in pre-season, Dan. And what he does offer that some of our other midfielders don't is a bit of a goal threat. And we saw that against Gladbach, and we've seen that him popping up in positions in and around the 18-yard box. He scored a lot of goals for Hull in the brief stint that he was there. But in terms of replacing the goals that Bryan Mbeumo and Yan Wissa scored last season, it looks like Fabio Carvalho might be one of Keith Andrews' kind of in-house replacements or ready-made replacements, do you think?
This is his chance. The first few games anyway, I think he'll definitely start, especially with Sharda missing pre-season. So I'm not sure he'll even start at the weekend. So, yeah, he's got to take it now. I think he'll start at least the first few games. On the right-hand side, it looks like he's got a bit of license to come inside and almost be in the number 10 position with Damsgaard at times, because then we've got Coyote on the overlap on that right-hand side who gets forward quite well. So, scored a good goal against Gladbach. He does have goals in him. Even last season, he did score every so often when he was on the pitch, which you can't necessarily say about people like KLP. I think, if Carvalho was to start regularly, I could see him getting 5, 6, 7, 8 goals. But we need more. We need more from him. Given who he's replacing, it's big shoes to fill. But he's got a very good relationship with Keith Andrews, and he's got to start the season, so he's just got to grab it with 2 hands now.
Moving into the attack, then we've got Kevin Sharda, Igor Thiago, Yan Wissa as it stands, Gustavo Nunes, who's injured, Romel Donovan, and Keane Lewis Potter. Definitely the lightest area of the pitch. Dan, I'm going to hand straight back over to you for some Thiago criticism, because I'm of the opinion that he needs far more time, and the sample size in terms of the minutes that he's had isn't big enough to make a conclusion. But you said that you don't think he's very good at football.
He does deserve time. I mean, we still haven't seen him a great deal, but I've not seen much improvement in him now to when I first saw him, and that's a bit of a concern. Even now
he's not played though, Dan.
Yeah, but even now having a full pre-season, in the friendly at the weekend, you could see other players, were more up to speed than him. I think he is obviously a handful. He's obviously a big guy. He's obviously strong, but even then, especially against QPR, he didn't win nearly as many duels in the air that I thought he would be capable of doing. And then when the ball's at his feet, he just seems to take that second too long. And obviously he was playing in Belgium before he came to the Premier League. He could probably afford to take that extra second and, think about it before he laid the ball off then. But I just don't think you will be afforded that time in the Premier League. And, it's granted, every time he scored in pre-season, there have been games that I haven't watched. And every time I do go and watch him, he doesn't score. But I just don't see a player in there who will get, 15 Premier League goals. And I hope I'm proved wrong. I think he needs to move the ball quicker. I think he needs to be sharper. And he needs to be winning more in the air, because I'm sure he did when he first came on against Everton last season. Yeah. I'm sure he was dominant in the air. And I haven't really seen that same Thiago in pre-season. And if he's not doing that, and that's kind of the minimum I expect him to do, be a good hold-up player and lay off others, then I don't know what he really offers. And it's concerning that he's the only option if Wissa leaves, which I think he will do. So I think we do need another option there anyway.
Craig, do you share Dan's concerns around Thiago?
Yes and no. I think that we need to give him the benefit of the doubt. He is just coming back from a couple of long-term injuries. He's going to take a little bit of time to hit the ground running. And all right, we haven't seen the output from him that we necessarily need to see. But if it's a similar case, I'm trying to think of examples. it's similar case to going back to like Scott Hogan, man. And he comes in, he gets injured very early, and then the next season when he's fully fit, he hits the ground running. Granted, I don't think Thiago is going to be sold in January, but you know he could hit the ground running when the season starts properly and get a few goals under his belt. I think that the same as when we spoke about Kevin Schade, the first goal is so vitally important for him. Obviously, he scored in pre-season, both pre-seasons that he's played, because he scored against Wimbledon last year, didn't he? But that first Premier League goal is so important for him, and he just needs to get one under his belt so that he can kickstart and get going. We said the same thing about Kevin Schade, and he scored 11 goals for us last year. So, you know, if he can get that first one under his belt, hopefully he can do it in the first couple of few games, get it done early so that he can kick his season on.
What I will say is that when Ivan Toney first played for Brentford and he didn't score until Millwall away, he looked very similar to what Igor Thiago looks like now. I remember thinking he looks a bit clunky. First touch isn't quite there. Duels, maybe not, because I think Ivan Toney won a lot of his duels from day dot. But I think once he got that goal against Millwall, and then it just kind of, didn't he score 4 in a row after that, four in 4 games? Then we kind of started to see the player that he eventually became. And he was so dominant in terms of leading that front line. And he looks, in terms of like a raw, because it's an Ivan Toney replacement. It's more of an Ivan Toney player than like someone like Yan Wissa, for example. He looks like he's got Ivan Toney's build, but he's a lot faster and a lot quicker on the ground. So, I mean, in terms of that, I'm happy. But I do think it is a case of once he gets that goal, and I'm hoping it is a case of this, but once he gets that goal, then we see him really start to take off.
He might be on penalties. So
I'd imagine.
We don't know who's on penalties.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I get the concern. I know it's, but I get the concern. I don't get the concern because the sample size, as I said, is so small. And for him to have played so little, I do think it's a bit early to be writing him off, Daniel. So let's hope we're proved wrong. Let's hope.
I just want to see some signs. I just don't feel like, even with Schade, I feel like early on we saw signs of what he did. Yeah, I don't think I've yet seen that at all in Thiago, and by now I'd have hoped to have seen at least something.
Well, hopefully we see some more at the start of the season. So we kind of said already that we need 2 more bodies in. Any concerns over Schade's injury, Craig? I think we were kind of saying towards the back end of last year, knowing that Brian Mbeumo was defo going to be going. Yan Wissa looks like he's going to go too. We've backed him to have a kind of breakout year. And I think he's been good in pre-season from what we've seen him. But I think it's just the case for him of being the main man this year in terms of really stepping up to the mantle. We've got a good track record of replacing the kind of star players in teams with people that are ready to go. Is he that guy this season for you?
I suppose it depends who we bring in, doesn't it? You know, with Ouattara, with Hutchinson, with the fella from Rennes whose name we can't pronounce. We've still got players that could possibly be coming in. Still, Kevin Schade had a great season last season, and we spoke about it so much about Brian Mbeumo as well, and how every team has that one standout player. If someone was to look at us at the moment, I don't think that they could pinpoint who that standout player is if Wissa goes. If Wissa stays, then he's going to be that player that people are going to look at as that standout player. But the likelihood is he's not going to be here. Or he'll probably be here by next Sunday still, but he won't be playing. So Kevin Schade is probably the next one on that list, isn't he? When you think of the front three that we had last season, he's definitely the next one that's going to should be stepping up to the plate and being that front man. But is your priority the wide player, or is your priority the centre forward? Because Thiago could be the main man as well, and we know that he could be the main man. But it's just whether he can also hit the ground running. It's a strange one, because when Nunes comes fully fit and he's playing, could be great. When Thiago's fully fit and he's playing, could be great. We know what Kevin Schade can do with the goals that he scored last season. Could be great. Also, he looks like he just never wants to be anywhere. I've seen pictures of Kevin Schade from throughout preseason, and I don't think I saw him smile once. Like, he just looks like he doesn't want to be anywhere. But I don't know. It just always kind of looks a bit miserable, to be honest. But it really depends where we are come Sunday. I doubt we'll bring anyone in before then and now that could possibly play. But I mean, what do we realistically think the front? We're probably going to line up with a 4-1-3-1. Is that right? No.
4-1-3.
Like a 4-3-1-2 even. Or
Yeah.
4-2-3-1. 4-2-3-1.
4-2-3-1. 4-2-1-3. 4.
Yeah, we're 4-4-2. We're just going old school 4-4-2. Like if we're going let's just say we're going 4-3-3, where we're going one holding midfielder. Let's be realistic. That's probably going to be Jordan Henderson this weekend.
Yarmo and Damsgaard.
Yarmo and Damsgaard either side of him. Thiago's going to be up the middle, probably.
I think Fab starts on the right, probably. And then
Fab starts wide.
I think Fab starts wide, and then I think it's a toss-up between KLP and Sharda, depending off if he's fit on the left.
I think it'll be KLP because Sharda's not had much of a pre-season. And I would be worried about that front three in terms of creativity, and I think we'll see the same problems that we saw against QPR and Gladbach.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can change things off the bench in terms of having Malambo and having Sharda as well, and Donovan, players that can come in and maybe change things if it's not working. But before we talk about just like one on Forest, any massive differences that we've seen between Andrew's ball and Frank ball in pre-season, apart from the greater emphasis on set pieces, which we kind of was expected?
No, like I said, I mean, last season we had sometimes Sharda wouldn't start and Damsgaard would kind of be on the left but drift in. I think we're seeing that a little bit on the right with Carvalho now. And then obviously last season KLP was the one that bomb up on the left. This season it would be Coyote bombing up on the right and maybe Rico being a bit more conservative on the left-hand side. So that's probably a little tactical tweak, but I think that's just down to personnel in terms of not having Brian there anymore and having Carvalho who kind of wants to drift inside. But otherwise, I don't think there's been massive changes. I don't expect there to be massive changes. You know, you don't change something that's working. I'm sure he'll want to put his own stamp on it. Yeah, I mean, with set pieces is the obvious thing. Jensen's taking them on the left and Coyote's taking them on the right at the moment, whereas Coyote's taken them all last season. Yeah, we're still playing out from the back. We've been quite brave playing out from the back in pre-season, both with Kelleher and Valdemarson against Gladbach. That's another thing. I hope Kelleher's back and fit to play against Forest because I think he'll be really good for us. But yeah, I don't expect it to be too much different to what we saw under Thomas Frank.
Craig, we got a trip to Mr. Marinakis' Forest. That will be Keith Andrews' first game in charge in the Premier League. We've just spoken about the squad. I think it's in a relatively good place, and I don't think we're done yet. I really do think there's going to be at least one or two more coming in. How are you feeling ahead of Sunday? I'm so buzzing for football to be back. I'm so ready for the next 9 months. My mood to be decided purely on the results at the weekend.
Purely results.
How you feeling ahead of?
Okay, firstly, again, apologies to Galifianakis. He was unnecessarily slandered for no reason whatsoever. So apologies, Marinakis. Look, I think that we're playing them in a time where they're caught up in a little bit of drama. They're caught up in a bit of drama as to what's happening with Crystal Palace as well. So, you know, it's probably a good time to play them with things that are happening off the pitch. But first game of the season, no one can ever really predict what's going to happen. But yeah, like you say, man, I'm so happy that football is back. Dan, we like I said at the top, we've done first days in the Premier League 4 times now, but this is so different to anything we've experienced. How are you feeling ahead of the new season? If you could wrap things up for us.
I'm really excited, but this is obviously massive. You know, I really, really hope it works out for Keith Andrews and the coaching staff. And if we can just get a result this weekend, I think immediately our confidence levels just go up. I think we just need to see that, you know, we are as good as we were last season. Or if we are dropping off, we're only dropping off slightly, maybe because of the issues we have up front. But I've not seen anything in pre-season which makes me think that we're going to drop off significantly. I think it's clearly massive. I don't want to go into that Sunderland game, third game of the season, having lost to Forest and Villa before then, which could easily happen because Forest and Villa have got good players and they're good teams in their own right. But we're a club that's never been in the relegation zone in the Premier League. And that is an awful lot of pressure for Keith Andrews to continue that on and take over from Thomas Frank. But, you know, we wish him all the best. I think I am more excited, like I said at the start, than nervous, but that could very quickly change based on what happens on Sunday. But I hope that we just get off to a good start. I think we need to.
Yeah, 100% agree. The Eden Road podcast will be back this week potentially for a Forest preview to kind of get the lowdown on how they're feeling ahead of the new season, because they've had a crazy summer. They're now confirmed as Europa League for next season. But it would be good to get the inside track on everything Marinakis and Morgan Gibbs-White. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Just before we go, remember to drop a comment down below. You're happy with Brentford's business so far? How are you feeling ahead of Sunday? Let us know in the comment section, and we will reply to as many as we can. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Follow us on the socials at the Eden Road on Twitter, at Eden Road Pod on Instagram. Gents, Sunday cannot come soon enough. I'm absolutely buzzing.
Up the bees.